Sawadee and welcome to ASEAN Talent, the show that will present you the stories of all talented people around the region. And today, our special guest is the one who becomes globally renowned as one of the world's youngest conductors. This guy is also one of the youngest conductors in the world, คุณ trisdee ณ พัทลุง สวัสดีครับ First of all, I have to say welcome to ASEAN Talent and thank you for joining my program today. And I've heard that you have just come back from England, right?
Yes.
What did you do there?
It was a very special project. We took an entire orchestra from Thailand. We took the Siam Philharmonic Orchestra, which is the orchestra of Opera Siam, to England, to London, to perform in Somtao's opera, in Somtao Sucharitkul's opera Menak, which is a Thai story. So it's a big cultural project, and the aim was to bring Thai culture, Menak, the story of Menak, Thai ghost, and our orchestra and some of our singers.
How did you bring this very Thai story to perform in England?
Well, Ajahn Somtao Sucharitkul, who's a well-known musical figure in Thailand, he composed an opera based on this story, which is a famous story about a Thai ghost. And he wrote the opera in English. He wrote the words as well, and he put the words to music. It's a great opera, and I think it was appreciated by the people over there.
And what were the feedbacks after the performance?
Feedbacks were great, and I think we will be doing this more often.
Okay, now let's get back to the time when you start learning music, right? Would you please briefly tell me the stories how you turned to a conductor, a very successful conductor like right today?
When I was young, that is to say before the age of 13, I had absolutely no interest in music whatsoever, and I was only interested in science, in mathematics, those sorts of subjects. And then when I was 13, I suddenly had this urge to study music, and I went to my aunt's house, who was teaching piano at the time, and I asked her if I could study the piano with her. And she said, yes, certainly, just come round. And so I did. I went there after school. And as it turned out, I fell in love with the instrument and with music in general, which I think caused me to improve really quickly. And that was how I began. I began studying music when I was 13, which is actually quite late because you'll find that most people, young people, when they start learning music, they usually start around the age of 5 or even 4. And so, but anyway, music became a part of me, and it was clear that that was something that I wanted to do.
You started playing piano at the age of just 13, right? And you spent only around a year to achieve grade 8 in piano.
Yes.
I told my friend about your story and they didn't believe it. What is the inspiration that drives you to that point? Just a year to achieve grade 8.
Yes, it's not normal, I have to admit. But as I said, when I started studying the piano when I was 13, I became completely obsessed with music in general, which sort of enabled me to, sort of practice endlessly. So that was part of it. And also I was trying to learn new things, to learn from you know, the music that I had in front of me. To learn from the great masters like Beethoven when it, you know, came to composition and stuff like that, it's all about observation. You just have to see the things that other people may not be looking for or looking at. So that, I think that was one of the reasons why I could achieve such a level in such a limited amount of time. So I think there should be more people who, you know, if they study properly, or if they have a good way of observing and of studying, they should be able to achieve the same thing.
Mm-hmm. What about conductor?
Yeah. And then when I was 15, I was introduced to the world of, you know, classical music, or rather to the classical music scene in Thailand, by Mr. Somtao Sucharitgul, who, as I mentioned, is a well-known musical figure in this country. And he taught me a lot of things, but not sort of in a classroom sort of atmosphere, but rather in a more sort of guru-like kind of way. So he would play me music that I had never heard before, or like Renaissance music or Baroque music of a certain kind or whatever. And those things were things that really helped me in my musical development. So I didn't really go to classes. I didn't really, you know, study in a proper conservatory or university or anything. And I just sort of studied as I worked.
Trisdee came up to me he was about 15, 14, something like that. He came up to me in the interval at a concert, which I happened to be watching, and he said, I want to be a conductor and a composer like you, he said. It sounded very, very flattering, you know, right? So, and this is something that many kids say over the course of one's life. So I'm sort of, okay, well, what have you written, you know? What have you composed? I said. So he opens up his backpack and he pulls out some compositions that he's written. And right away, there's something very unusual about them. And what is unusual is not that they are brilliant, but that they are playful. You see, he said, okay, here's an example of, I've written this Polonaise, like a Chopin piece. He said, but I've used an Isan melody, right? So I looked at this, I immediately saw that there was genius present there. Not because the composition was great, but because this is a boy who actually didn't know anything about how to write music. And yet, with those little pieces that he already had in his mind, he had already learned to be playful with those pieces. And actually, you see, playfulness is one of the most important ingredients of genius. Genius is, no matter how distinguished they are always playful. The elements that other people take seriously, they play with them. And because they treat them like a child's building blocks, they can create completely new things out of them. So I said to him, I'm going to have to teach you myself, because it's perfectly clear that if you go to other kinds of teachers, the standard way of teaching kids about music, they're going to say, okay, these are the rules, this is what you cannot do this, you cannot do this, you cannot. But I knew that in his case, the only way to teach him was to say, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. Never to say, you can't do this, you can't do this.
Simply because it would have involved too much work, you know, and sometimes I tend to be quite lazy, and I try not to be. But when I started to do opera and to be involved in the opera scene,